This content is for informational purpose only. You should not construe any such information or other material as legal, tax, investment, financial, or other advice. Nothing contained on here constitutes a solicitation, recommendation, endorsement, or offer by Draper Goren Home or any third-party service provider to buy or sell any securities or other financial instruments, whatsoever. And you can catch the recording of this episode on our YouTube channel or our dedicated media partner, Blockchain Radio. So thank you, Ali, for joining us today. I'm so excited to have you. You have such a unique story. Why don't you go ahead and start by telling us a little bit about yourself, telling us about Tahini Restaurants, and we'll get it going.
Yeah, well, first of all, Adam, thank you for having me. And I'm excited. I get super excited when I get to share my story to more people out there, and hopefully people can learn little lessons here and there, and we can help contribute to that. And so first of all, I want to start by introducing myself. Ali Hammam. I am Egyptian. I live in London, Ontario, and me and my brother and my cousin started Tahini's in 2012, where we started with one restaurant and then grew it to 2, 3, 4, and now we have like a full-on franchise model where we have 4 franchisees lined up this year, and and we're just nonstop grinding. And recently in 2020, we made a corporate decision to go on a Bitcoin standard, and we kind of announced it to everybody. And ever since then, I've been sleeping better at night and super excited, and been wanting to talk more about it and share my experience and my thoughts on it to everyone. So that's
awesome.
Summary.
That's perfect. So let's just dive into it. Okay, I'm curious. You're a Middle Eastern restaurant, or Mediterranean restaurant, as you guys market yourselves, right?
Yeah.
You guys serve killer shawarma, hummus, and other awesome Middle Eastern treats, right? Yet you're quite vocal in the crypto space. Now, I'm curious, share a little bit more about your upbringing and how that's kind of played to where you are right now.
Yeah, so we were originally an Egyptian family, but we had like Canadian citizenship as well growing up. But we kind of spent our lives growing up in Egypt and Saudi Arabia. My father was working in Saudi Arabia, and we were just kind of living between both countries, just jumping back and forth, 4 years here, 4 years there, and just kind of like a nomad family. And yeah, so I graduated from university in Egypt in 2010, and 2011 came, and the Arab Spring happened. So we got to be a part of that whole thing. It started with Egypt, and Egypt was like witnessed one of the biggest revolutions in history, right? And we were there from day one. We were out in the streets with the protesters. We marched across Alexandria from one end to the city to the other end. We got met with riot police.
Wow.
We got hit with tear gas, and we got surrounded. At one point, we got surrounded by riot police because they tried to like cut the protesters off, and they tried to squeeze them in. And so we kind of had to like evade them and do maneuvers like that. But at the end of the day, the will of the people was stronger. They overthrew the Egyptian president at the time. And yeah, and it was what we thought the best year of Egyptian history. Of course, we were wrong. It wasn't. it was sort of the beginning of the downfall for Egypt's economy. But we did the right decision, and after the revolution that same year, we decided that we would move to Canada and start our careers here. So we did that.
In what year was this?
This was the same year, but late. So the revolution happened like early 2011,
Okay.
January, and later that year, like around the end of it, we all moved to Canada.
Okay.
So our thought process was, this is perfect timing. I just graduated. Me and my brother wanted to start a business and start, a new career here in Canada. And at the same time, my parents wanted to retire. So it was perfect timing. We were all gonna move to Canada and start this new life. And we were faced. So we did that actually. My whole family moved here except my father. And the reason why he didn't move with us is he was faced with a problem that he couldn't move his wealth out of Egypt to Canada to purchase a home and retire and all that.
Wow.
And the reason why he couldn't was strictly capital controls. The banks just said, no, you can't do it. You can only move like $1,000 a month, something like ridiculous like that. So what ended up happening is my father said, okay, like the country just went through a big revolution. We're just going to, wait it out a couple of years. So he stayed back to work in Saudi by himself for an extra 6 years.
Wow.
Yeah. And in that time period, from 2012 to 2017, where things got a little bit easier to move money around, we all witnessed the Egyptian pound drop 65% against the US dollar.
That's wild.
Yeah. So in a span of 5 years, my father saw like part of his wealth just get cut by more than half. Luckily, they did own a lot of real estate, but still the appreciation in the real estate didn't offset the 65% cut in the currency.
Yeah.
So it was still a loss in that sense, and that sort of I guess that story wasn't enough for me to realize how important Bitcoin was.
That's a question within itself. During this time, did you hear about Bitcoin? Did you learn about Bitcoin? Because crypto solves that problem within itself, right?
Yeah, yeah, 100%. So actually, Adam, at that time, we were very focused on our business. It was just starting. We bought this restaurant and we rebranded it to Tahini's, and we were focused on all that. I started my financial investing personally with stocks and just investing in public companies. And I did hear about Bitcoin, but then I also heard Warren Buffett call it rat poison.
Right.
And it kind of threw me off. I had a lot of respect for Warren Buffett at the time, so I kind of ignored it. And I just went on doing my thing until 2020 hit.
Got you. Now, this next question I have for you is kind of like the reason how I discovered Tahini's and you and your voice in the crypto space, right? Take us through this thread that you kind of published on Twitter on August 18th, and that whole story and all this inspiration that you got to actually go full into Bitcoin. Tell us a little bit more about that thread.
Yeah, so that thread is like I tried to explain as much as I could, but I feel like I didn't want to make it too long. But, there's a lot
you could add. There's so much more, but I
Yeah.
think you condensed it really nicely.
Thank you. Yeah, so the year 2020 was very like paradigm shifting for us, right? What we went through as a restaurant. So first of all, before I get into the Bitcoin story, like there's a business story to this that happened in parallel with the Bitcoin story. So the business story was 2020 came, we had 3 restaurants, corporate restaurants operating, and we were in the process of opening the 4th. And we also had like 3 franchisees lined up to be opening that same year. And business was great, and we always ran our business in a way where we're conservative. We spent years developing like a profitable model. So we ran a business the way that, you know, any rational person would run a business, right? And March hit, and the COVID crisis came, and we all saw the sales of the restaurants plummet like 70 to 80% in a week.
Jeez.
Right? Yeah.
I can't even wrap my head around that. That's crazy.
Yeah, it was tough, man. Like it was, if anybody wants to go through hell, try having a business and like a restaurant and having sales plummet like 70, 80%. Like it was a nightmare. And so we did what any entrepreneur that has a business would do, right? We stayed up day and night. We had the 3 locations that were running at the time. We're 3 partners. We each went to one location and we worked day and night. We let most of our employees go, and we just, we grinded and we made it work. We were doing everything from prepping the food in the morning, washing dishes, serving the people, cleaning up, closing at night, like just everything. And so we let most of our employees go, and we were able to bring back business, essentially, right? All of March was that. And April, things started to pick back up again, slowly, but surely. And then by May, we were kind of back up and running again. So we went from like this complete economic crisis to full recovery within 2 months. And, I think that's also because, we had a lot of like the online, we were able to adapt the business to online takeout and deliveries, and we had all the infrastructure set up. And so when people made that transition from coming into online, we were kind of like well positioned to take advantage of that, which turned out pretty good for us. And so in May, we reached out to all the employees that we let go, and we told them, okay, let's, come back. We knew that they still weren't working. So we reached out and like, hey guys, come back. And they were like, sorry, but, we're not going to do it, because most of them were getting government programs and subsidies, kind of like UBI, for basically sitting at home and not working. So they said, why would I work when I can just, sit at home and get free money?
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah. So we basically said, okay, fine, screw you guys. We hired new employees. We trained them from scratch, and we brought the business back up and running again, right? At that point, we got like our cash, our treasuries were healthy, and everything seemed to be fine. However, we had that feeling that during an economic crisis, there's like people had a problem that, they're getting a lot of money regardless. So we had a feeling that money is going to be worth less. And that's a good segue to the Bitcoin story.
Right. Which, by the way, could you say your experience going through that revolution kind of gave you that expertise to realize, okay, something is losing its value?
Yeah, 100%. So, I had a lot of kind of like the framework built, and it's almost like Bitcoin kind of put it all together, and it all made sense, but throughout the years, I didn't know that the missing piece was Bitcoin, but Bitcoin really opened my eyes in that, it was the missing piece. I knew all that, I had all that preparation, but I just didn't know Bitcoin was the answer. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I hear you, for sure.
Yeah. So,
Bitcoin came into the picture.
Yes, sorry. So I kind of lost my train of thought.
No worries.
So the parallel story to this business story kind of started with my personal investing portfolio. And like I told you, Adam, like throughout the years, I was mainly investing in stocks, public companies. And when January came, I was actually very fortunate and lucky to sell most of my stocks. I was like 75% cash and only 25% still left invested in stocks. I didn't, to be honest, like I didn't know the crash was coming. I just got lucky with it, And when March hit, I was like, okay, game on. This is, this is the Christ, this is the blood on the streets type buying opportunity. Let's dive in. So I did that, and I took all my wealth and invested in everything. And like, it was mostly in stocks, but then I bought a little Bitcoin with it.
There you go. Right.
Yeah. So originally, when I actually bought that first time in March, I actually had no idea what Bitcoin really is.
By the way, how did you buy it? Use Coinbase? Use like a central?
No, I only had a brokerage account at that point, so I just Googled stock ticker for Bitcoin, found GBTC, and then boom, just
okay.
Right. And then after I bought it, I started doing a little more research into it. And the more research I did, Adam, the more I was fascinated by what this thing actually is. I stumbled upon the article, "The Number Zero and Bitcoin" by Robert Breedlove. And it was a deep, deep article. I read that once, twice, 3 times, just to kind of like get it all in. And it just clicked with me, right? And I was down the rabbit hole ever since. I bought more Bitcoin right after that. I got Saifedean's book, The Bitcoin Standard, devoured that in like 3 days. Bought more Bitcoin, kept learning as much as I can. Bought more Bitcoin. Read The Price of Tomorrow by Jeff Booth. Bought more Bitcoin, and the more I learned, the more I bought, and I reached a point where I finished all the money I had, but my stocks were going up, right? So I kept selling the stocks and buying more Bitcoin, selling the stocks that were going up and then buying more Bitcoin, until it was like a significant, over 50% of my personal portfolio. At the same time, I was dragging all my partners with me.
So that's what I was ask. You probably went screaming to your brother and cousin. You're like, guys, there's something going on here.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, first I told them, okay, guys, just buy this, right? And they're like, what is it? Bitcoin, and they kind of bought it out of faith in me.
Yeah.
And then I just kept sending them all the articles, all the books that I read, all the content that I was consuming. I was just passing it down, and they kind of went through the same process that I did. They learn more, bought more Bitcoin, learn more, bought more Bitcoin, and at that point we were all Bitcoiners now, and we all had over 50%. In Bitcoin, some more than others. But yeah, so we all ran out of money at that point, right? And we kind of talked about, well, the company's is doing well. The company's, our treasury is healthy. Why don't we buy Bitcoin with that? So we had a couple meetings about that, and we were getting serious about it. And then we saw Michael Saylor drop his, it was at that time, it was like $250 million purchase of Bitcoin. And that kind of tipped us over the edge, and it's just like, okay, it's game on now.
Done. You're being called out. Became a competition.
Yeah, this is a race of accumulation at this point, and we're not going to waste any time. We're not going to wait for other corporations to start buying in. We're going to go in, and the conclusion we came to was that Bitcoin is a free, true savings technology that stores wealth across time and space. And that, that is really, really powerful. And so we made the announcement on Twitter, and that was that.
Yeah. So this early trend obviously started with these big public companies making headlines. Like you said, MicroStrategy now owning $425 million worth of Bitcoin, probably depreciated since then. And also Square, I think it was last week or the week before, announcing that they dedicated 1% of their total assets into BTC, right? So a lot of headlines you read about in the media, but I'm really curious as to what's kind of happening behind the scenes with stories that aren't really getting picked up because they're not really mainstream or newsworthy per se, right? So you have a small business slowly growing and expanding. Have you seen any other companies that are under the radar that have kind of followed onto this trend? Small businesses, medium-sized businesses who don't have exactly the bandwidth to get Forbes coverage or TechCrunch coverage or whatever it may be, just doing it low-key because they're seeing other big sharks doing it.
100%. There's actually a ton of companies that have Bitcoin in their treasuries, and they're not getting the attention that they earn right now. Bitcoin Magazine, for example, Preston Pysh with his media company. Preston Pysh was actually kind of the guy who got me curious into buying Bitcoin in the first place. So, he did it with his company. There's a company in Toronto called Float. There's a lot of businesses out there that do have Bitcoin in their treasuries, and we're just one of them, man.
Yeah.
We're trying to spread the word. The way I look at it is, I'd rather see medium and small size businesses front run this thing,
Mm-hmm.
Because the big corporations are coming anyways, and we said that in our announcement back in August, and you can see it happening right now. And the reality is, Bitcoin is not going to care about your feelings, right? So it's going to solve the fairness problem because it's the fairest, hardest money on earth. But if you're the last one to buy it, it's not going to solve the inequality problem, right? And you have this amazing one in a lifetime opportunity where you can buy Bitcoin at the same price that Square and MicroStrategy bought Bitcoin, right? It levels the playing field in that way, and the medium and small sized businesses can have a huge advantage if they just realize the opportunity.
Yeah, sure. So when, let's say you're trying to pitch this to other small businesses to go onto this Bitcoin standard, right? What are some of the compelling reasons why small businesses should explore, for example, offering Bitcoin alongside more conventional payments, or even if it just may be storing it as a form of value, right? And by the way, side question, do you guys accept Bitcoin as a form of payment? No.
No.
Okay, interesting. So let me retract that question then. Why not? One, and two, what are the compelling reasons you would provide to other small businesses to try to get them on this bandwagon?
Okay, so for the question of why not use Bitcoin as payments, number one, we'd rather people save their Bitcoin and not spend it. Number two, going through the trying to get all the infrastructure done and everything, and applying it to all restaurants and all franchisees, and setting up their own accounts and teaching them how to do Lightning networks, on Lightning payments, on-chain payments, this and that. And at the end, it's probably like, how many of our customers are going to actually pay in Bitcoin? Probably less than 5 or 2%,
Mm-hmm.
right? So I don't think Bitcoin is a payments technology. I think we have a lot of things that are way more efficient and way more adopted right now. And Bitcoin is a savings technology, right? It solves the savings problem, and I think that's the main use case for it.
Sure.
So it's inefficient for us to use it as as payment. Although I'd love to. I get tons of messages, people ever since we announced it, people want to come in and pay in Bitcoin, but I tell them, no, just save your Bitcoin, it's in fiat, and we'll convert it into Bitcoin. Because remember, another thing too is that when you record Bitcoin, on your as a transaction, and then you have to sell it, for example, to pay for costs.
Right.
You got rent, electricity, labor, all that, right? You're recording, you have to pay your capital gains tax or loss on that Bitcoin.
Right.
Right? So if you're going to do it over however many transactions over 4 or 5 locations, it becomes an accounting nightmare at that point. So
The takeaway is for all the entrepreneurs listening, listen to this problem and try to build a solution. And if you build it, come talk to Draper Gordon-Holm. That's the takeaway. We want to hear about it. But anyways, continue.
Yeah. I mean, I have heard of some software that does all that counting and stuff. But again, Adam, as I said, like even if we do it, at the end of the day, not a lot of people are going to want to pay in it. Even Bitcoiners are going to say, no, I want to pay in fiat. I don't pay my Bitcoin, you know? So
what about other cryptos like stable coins, for example?
I mean,
would that be on the radar?
Yeah, I'm open-minded to it. If it grows to a point where it's widely adopted by people, hell yeah, we'll do it.
Yeah.
You know, like
why would you put that on a sale?
Yeah, if everybody's doing it, sure, we'll do it.
Yeah.
But it hasn't reached that point yet.
Interesting.
So until it does, you know, Bitcoin works great as a savings technology. It solves a way bigger problem than payments, in my point of view. So yeah, I personally recommend people just use it as that for now.
Okay. Now, like I said, you've been very vocal. Obviously, you feel this stuff to the bone, okay? And you've gotten a lot of traction on social media. Has that attracted new franchisees who also believe in Bitcoin and who kind of align with your ethos and Bitcoin's ethos? And for those who aren't, more of the traditional crowd who do have deep pockets, who are looking for alternative investments and come to you as a franchise solution, right? When you come and tell them, oh, I'm using Bitcoin as a reserve, right? How does that make them feel, essentially? So a double-sided question.
Yeah, so the answer is I didn't get anyone interested in opening a franchise with us because of the Bitcoin announcement. I had one actually, but it didn't work out. And but that's not really why we did it. You know, I'm pretty sure all Bitcoiners have that feeling where you want to help other people with Bitcoin when you own it, right? Because it helps other people, it helps Bitcoin, and it helps spread the word. And ultimately, that's the main reason why we came out with the announcement on Twitter, and we've been so public and vocal about it, right? So, sorry, what was the other
The other question, yeah, that's interesting what you said. The other question is, so for these new franchisees, right, this more traditional crowd, more of like the baby boomers that come to you, they want to invest, they want to open a franchise, but then they see you're kind of mingling with this internet currency, right, that they don't know anything about, that they're technology laggers, you know, and they hear Bitcoin, they think of drugs and scams, okay? Has that affected, I guess, your growth? Or has that affected your growth at the end of the day?
Not really. We did get questions about it though. And people were kind of skeptical at our decision. They're thinking, you know, like it's too risky. We're being too, I don't know what they're thinking, but they're just being very, very skeptical.
Yeah.
And so I started by doing these threads of content to help educate, educate some of the questions these people had. And because it's hard to, if somebody's already coming at you with the mentality of, oh, you're doing something dumb or stupid, like you can't really change his mind right there. And I've tried, but it still kind of fell on deaf ears. And so I started doing these threads, and thread that also links to other rabbit hole threads. And it answers a lot of questions about Bitcoin, and and they're all connected to, you know, our pinned tweet on Twitter.
Right.
So if you follow our pinned tweet, you read it at the end, you can find another thread. You click on it, you're gonna find a whole thread with lots of content in it, and it just keeps going deeper and deeper, and it helps, explain the reasons why we did this. So it's much more easier for me to point them towards that,
Right.
and then have them comment and talk about it.
Yeah. How much of the day is spent on Twitter tweeting versus actually like making a bowl of hummus or cutting like a Mediterranean salad? Because you're pretty active.
Yeah.
And you run that whole page yourself, or do your brother and your cousin chime in also?
Yeah, no, so I do all the marketing at Tahini's. I'm in charge of all the social media accounts, and so I focus on running all social media. And because of the Bitcoin transition that we made, I came to love Twitter. I was never on Twitter. We joined Twitter as a company, because of Bitcoin.
Right.
We were mostly TikTok and Instagram and Facebook, and that was it. Right. So
Smart.
yeah, and
you guys tapped into the crypto community, right?
yeah, that's where everybody is. That's that knows anything about Bitcoin, right?
Right.
So yeah, I love, honestly, when I first did the announcement, I didn't know how the Bitcoin community would take it. They from the outside, when I was just a lurker looking into all of this, they seemed very like protective and crazy to other people sometimes, right?
Oh yeah.
So I didn't know how they would take like new guy, new restaurant like us. So, but they were honestly amazing. Like the Bitcoin community is one of the smartest and most like educated and nicest people that I've ever met. But like they'll defend Bitcoin at all costs, right? So that's when they get aggressive.
Right.
Other than that, man, like we've seen nothing but love from this whole community, and we love them for that.
That's awesome. I wanna kind of head into Q&A really quick. Sean Mooney asks, "Do you have a Bitcoin ATM at Tahini's?"
No, Sean.
No? All right.
Yeah, remember, guys, like we came to Bitcoin in 2020, right? So our main objective into Bitcoin was just accumulate as much as we can. And then, our second sort of objective is help educate people about it, right? So maybe, yeah, within time, we'll have Bitcoin ATM.
I love it. Just to wrap it up before I let you go and before we break into networking. So remind us again how many locations you have right now.
So we have 4 locations in London, Ontario.
Okay. And
we just opened our first franchise location this week in Whitby, Ontario.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I was there all week, actually, like shooting a lot of, marketing material and help with the opening and the grand opening. And it's pretty exciting. We're, like I said, we have 3 to 4 franchisees probably lined up just this coming year. And yeah, we're super excited about it. And, if anybody wants to open a profitable business and serve people great food, just hit me up on Twitter.
Yeah. So that's kind of like the next question. So what's in store for Tahini's? What does the future look like? How many restaurants do you want to open by the end of 2020, 2021 and beyond?
Yeah. So
are you just staying in Canada or do you want to grow globally?
Hell no.
Yeah.
We're going everywhere, man.
Right? I don't know. In-N-Out is like a American thing. They won't branch out beyond certain states. So I'm wondering if you're taking a similar approach.
No, we're going to the freaking moon if we can.
Nice.
And yeah, it's just gonna depend on how hard we work and how hard we grind and setting it all up. First, we're going to focus on getting Ontario right. So opening those first 10 franchises in Ontario and setting up all the logistics and all the systems and just everything in Ontario. After that, we're going to other provinces and we're going to the States, and that's the goal.
Nice. I can't wait to see you in California.
I'd love
Your food looks incredible. Ali, you're the best, man. Thank you so much for joining us. It was such a good time having you here. And for everyone that joined us for the first time, Ali, tell us actually where we can find you, where we can learn more about Tahinis and yourself and the business in general.
Yeah, so you can follow us on Twitter at The Real Tahinis. We're also on all other social media platforms, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, you name it. Just search Tahinis Restaurants and you'll find us there. And yeah, feel free. We have our DMs open. I personally read all the messages that we get through there. So feel free to hit me up anytime you'd like.
Nice. Are you doing dances on TikTok? Is there a Tahini dance?
No, I do. I try to do the silliest things on TikTok. I do it all.
I love it. I love it. Ali, again, thanks, man. You rock. And for those who are joining us for the first time, we're going to bridge into networking mode right now, where I'm basically going to end this presentation setting and we're going to all distribute to these colorful tables and we'll be able to bounce from chair to chair and meet people from all over the world. It's one of my favorite parts next to interviewing all these amazing speakers like yourself. So when I end presentation mode, guys, make sure you have your mics on, make sure you have your cameras on, or else you're going to be very lost. Okay, so mics on, cameras on. Ali, thank you so much. Guys, next week we're going to be talking about the music industry in the blockchain space, so stay tuned. Ali,
thank you, Adam. Thank you for having me.
We'll see you next week. Bye-bye.